Hello and welcome back to From the Press Box. Every week we bring you an expert. It could be a journalist. It could be, in this case, a very, very good YouTuber. Lewis Williams is joining me, a Luton fan. He knows a bit about everything. He's an EFL expert as well. Lewis, I've invited you on, mate, to try and make sense of Luton Town's season. Are you up to the challenge?
I could give it a good go. Yeah, give it a good go.
It's been a mad one. We're just talking off air that, everybody expected Luton to be up the top end of the table. And, I know the managerial change early doors, but it's never happened. I think they've spent 2 weeks inside the top six the entire season, which is crazy considering the squad that you've still got.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. All we wanted was a bit of consistency. We finally got it, but right at the end of the season, and it might be a bit too late.
Well, I've just been watching your predictions video for this weekend, which I do recommend, by the way, because you've been talking a lot of sense, and you've potentially left it open for Bolton to grab a result. Bolton need to win to secure third, but obviously the only team that's already got a playoff place. Luton have got to have results go their way and also beat Bolton, which has been difficult for anybody to get near them at the top sheet this season. But Luton are in the form of the season, aren't they? They're actually finally starting to realise themselves.
Yeah, it's finally started to click, when with the signing of Casey Palmer in the January transfer window, honestly improving our attack and taking it to another level. He's also having the best goal contribution season of his football career. And then you've got Hakim Adofin, who's been in and out of the side for us due to injuries, but he's finally managed to stay fit. He's improved our defence absolutely massively and helping the defenders around him also improve with the likes of Cal Naismith, who's the club captain, who hasn't been the Cal Naismith of old. It's all just starting to click, and then you've got Jordan Clark, who's our top goal scorer from in the midfield. Hopefully he's back for this game because he's been missing for the last 3 league games. And yeah, just everyone's just seems to have the confidence. The mentality's massively improved. We've definitely gone up another level since beating Stockport County in that EFL Trophy final, and I think that did massively help us to make sure we end this season as strong as possible. But yeah, it's starting to give us good confidence. And regardless of what happens at Bolton, even if we don't get into those playoff positions, I think fans would feel a bit, yes, they'll be disappointed because this season has been a disappointment, but also will feel like, we've seen signs that under Wilshere, we might have something about us for next year.
I think when we went to Kenilworth Road earlier in the season, Luton played some good possession football, really looked strong. And at that point in time, I thought, here we go. You're going to obviously get a bit of a run of results up, matching Bolton for possession football. Not too many teams managed to do that, but Luton were good that day, I think. It was quite a game of chess, really, that game. What has stopped them? What has stopped them making that run earlier?
I think there is a bit of consistency. I think we've not had a consistent starting 11. I think too many players in and out of the side. We've been changing formations. We're not been scoring goals. There was a time we went for a long period of time actually not creating clear-cut chances. So we were getting in the right areas, but we were lacking that bit of quality, that bit of composure in front of goal. We were making far too many defensive errors. So there was a lot of times where, we were playing against teams. They weren't, a million miles better than us, but we would make that odd mistake and they would take that chance. And then we give ourselves such a mountain to climb. The mentality, the confidence was at an all-time low. Away from home, we just weren't getting results. We went through a really bad period of not picking up points away from home, not even getting draws. So after beating Stockport County away back in, I think it was in November, we beat them 3-0 and they were top of the league at that point. It took up until I think March against Wickham to get a win. You can't go that long period without, picking up points away from home. And that's probably going to be the reason why we don't get into the playoffs for me, because away from it just has not been good enough.
Is it an overspill from the relegations? Because, of course, I don't need to remind you, you were in the Premier League not so long back. And I remember going to Kenilworth in the FA Cup, in fact, in the third round and playing as a Premier League team. And it just seems in sort of a blink of an eye, you're suddenly outside the top 6 in League One. Is it an overspill? Has that confidence been brittle?
Yeah, I think anyone who gets back-to-back relegations, you're definitely there's going to be a lot of trying to figure out a way to rebuild the football club again. And I think Bloomfield found it a real big challenge. It was far too much of a task for him. He didn't really help himself at the same time. We had an injury crisis at the very start of the season, which didn't help. And I also think recruitment's so important. I think we were a bit too clever. Well, we were trying to be a bit too clever in our recruitment. I think we were trying to recruit to play 2 different ways. So we were trying to recruit to play a 4 at the back system, and then also try and play the 5 at the back system. And I think what's happened is some players can do one way, some players can do the other way. And it just looked really imbalanced and far too inconsistent. But finally, with the help of January, add in a few additions that actually help us play with the back 4, it's made us a lot more better going forward, better in defence, and everything's starting to click. But yeah, I think the back-to-back relegations, yes, okay, it has impacted. But still, I think any team with parachute payments and also with the squad we had available, because we did invest quite heavily in the summer. We did spend some money. We bought Jerry Yates, who last time played League One, scored 20 goals for Blackpool. Naki Wells had a fantastic career at Bristol City. Very experienced, EFL striker. Cal Naismith, who's performed well at this level, won promotions. Hakim Adofin, he was part of Rotherham's team of the season. Josh Keeley was part of the Leyton Orient team the year before. So we were signing players that have played Championship football and also done well at League One level. So there isn't really an excuse to not have done the objective of this season, which was promotion. But because of the things that I've already mentioned so far, it just impacted the team far too much. And it does feel like we've finally have pushed it to one side and it's ended. We've managed to stop the rot. We're not going to get relegated again. So no more relegation. We're guaranteed to play League One football at the very least. So we've stopped the rot. Now we can rebuild and, get back to the Luton of old, which was a team that, went from non-league to Premier League for good reason. And that was making the right football decisions on and off the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. And the man responsible for making those decisions, or certainly a lot of them, is Jack Wilshire, a young man who I interviewed as what was he, 17, 18-year-old. I remember him just getting on the team bus at Chelsea and umming and ahhing his way through his first professional interview when he was a kid. Had a loan spell at Bolton and did very, very well at the time. They were desperate to get him back that following season, but he ended up breaking into the Arsenal team, and the rest is history. But as a manager, how do you sum him up? I mean, it's his first big gig. What are the traits that he's brought to the job?
So yeah, originally I wasn't actually in favour of appointing him because I felt at the time it needed someone with a bit more experience of League One. With Wilshere, with his first job in management, he's going to make mistakes, and I just felt at the time we didn't needed someone that was learning on the job. And I still believe if we actually brought in a more proven Football League manager, I think we would have done better. I think we would have at least got a playoff position. But because Wilshere, lucky enough, he's got Chris Powell, who is a very experienced coach.
Yeah.
He's coached at the highest level with England. It has helped him, but I think far too many mistakes have happened since we've appointed him in terms of team selection, tactics, and so on. Some baffling decisions that don't really make sense. I think he hasn't helped himself sometimes in his interviews after games with the wording of how he's answered those questions. But what he's finally done is he's managed to, install his, style of play, which is control possession, like you guys saw back when we played you. Get the wingers involved, create chances, play attacking football, but at a certain tempo. He doesn't want to play it, slow like you have seen, certain possession-based managers. He wants to play it at a certain speed. And yeah, it has started to click recently because of everything we've mentioned so far. And it is looking like, he can potentially be the one to take us forward, but it's just taken far too long to get to this point. But I'm starting to like what we're producing on the pitch. If this is what Jack Wilshire football is all about, and I do think we can get better as well. I think we can score more goals. Some of the games which we've had recently in our fantastic, I think we're 11 games unbeaten. we could have won by a lot more. You know, that's the scary thing. That's the scary thing. Imagine if we had, you know, if you look at our strikers are not the ones actually scoring the goals. It's more of our midfielders. Imagine if we can get that striker that can score 20 goals at this level, the potential we can actually do. So, yeah, I think there's a few more missing pieces to the Jack Wilshire way. I think we need someone who can link the play up better up top, who can win a lot more in the air, and also more goals out wide for me. And then it start looking like a team that could do some real damage for next season.
It's interesting because actually this 90 minutes really, if Luton come into the playoffs as the absolute form team, and certainly Steven Schumacher has mentioned it at this end, is part of the motivation for Saturday for Bolton is to stop Luton's momentum. I wish we could stop Lincoln's momentum. That's really bugged me. But yeah, I mean, nobody will want to face Luton in the playoffs. That's for absolute certain. So one result, and you can all of a sudden have a completely different outlook.
Oh yeah, 100%. If we was to get into those playoff positions, I would back us to win promotion because the form's on our side. And it's actually happened to us. It happened back in League Two when we finished fourth under Nathan Jones, and Blackpool managed to get into the playoffs and they finished sixth, and they beat us in the semi-finals. It's one of the greatest League Two playoff battles. I think it ended being 5-4. You know, both teams going at each other. Plenty of I think it was a lot more than goals than that. I think it was 6-5. It was, you know, across the two legs, both teams going at it, but Blackpool, they had the form and they actually ended up going on to win promotion to League One. So, yeah, we've seen it happen to us, and hopefully we can do it to the other teams in the league. I think Stockport County are absolutely frightened of us because they've not managed to beat us in 3 attempts. Bradford, we managed to beat them and they've beaten us. We've beaten Stevenage and they've beaten us. And then you guys, we shared the point back in November. So it'd be interesting to see how this one plays out. But because of, you know, you guys, you want to guarantee that you want the second leg at home. Also, you definitely don't want the informed side going into those playoff positions. That's your motivation. And also, you also want to go into the playoffs yourselves on the back of a win. You know, you don't want to go into it on the back of a loss.
Absolutely. Look, there's 25,000 fans there at the Tough Sheet, so it'll be a big atmosphere, and you know maybe that's been questioned a little bit with Bolton when they rise to the big occasion, but more so I think with Steven Schumacher, his team has developed a bit more character on these occasions. So I'm relatively confident. I mean, I know your prediction. You said 2-1 Bolton, didn't you, in the end? But is there any way of changing that early goal?
Well, I do think an early goal can massively change this because what will happen is if we get the goal, it'd be like, right, what do Bolton do now? Because if you come at us, there'd be space in behind. And I've been told by Bolton fans this week that you've got a makeshift, you know, centre half playing as the left back. I think his name's Johnston.
George Johnston.
Yeah. I've been told he's a makeshift left back, and he's going to be up against, hopefully, Morris, who is one of the fastest players I've seen in a Luton shirt. In terms of when he gets the ball, he'll knock it past you. They lose 10 yards. You ain't catching him. And I've actually seen players pull their hamstrings trying to chase him. He's that quick. So that excites me if we can get in behind that way. But I do think getting an early goal, it puts pressure on the likes of Stevenage, Stockport County and Bradford. Because Stevenage will look at that and go, damn it, Luton have scored. We've got no choice. We've got to go out and win. And then that game kind of changes their mentality. In fact, in all 4 matches, with all the teams in conversation, they're going to have the tablets. They're going to see the scores come in. So that early goal, that first goal could really change how they think and go about their tactics and their mentality. So, yeah, it's going to be plenty of shocks and surprises. There's going to be times where you're going to see the away end cheer because of results going our way. Then it's going to be all quiet because results haven't gone our way. I can see it being like that. But we've been here before as Luton fans. Last game of the championship season against West Brom, all we needed was a point, and we ended up losing 5-3 to West Brom. We were the team in control. We were in the better position. So it kind of feels like, okay, what team is going to crumble under the pressure, or who's going to rise above it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the psychology, as you mentioned there, with the other 4 games can all affect each other. And you will get those little moments where the tempo has to change because you need a goal or because you can afford to sit back and defend a little bit. So they're all going to have knock-on effects, I think. It's nice being in the box seat for Bolton for once. It's nice not having necessarily that pressure, but I don't think any Bolton team is ever going to accept anything but the very best at home, particularly at this level of football. So yes, it's going to be interesting. Personally, I hope Bolton can nip it in the bud, nip the momentum in the bud, and you can concentrate on next season. By the way, I don't want to be in League One next season. There's some big clubs coming down. Sheffield Wednesday have just been bought out as well, so that's them out the frying pan. They'll be a different entity next season. You've got Leicester, Oxford, I don't fancy that. Don't fancy that one bit. And I don't want to go to Stevenage again either. I've got to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's an all right town. It's an all right one.
Oh, mate, honestly, yes, we've done all 4 divisions in this podcast, and I've done my time now. I've done my time at Stevenage. I don't need any more. But yes, are you guys any closer to a new stadium, by the way? Because I know that's something that's been on the cards for a while and been talked about for quite a while. That would be quite exciting.
Yes, advanced developments are happening this summer. I think we've got 2 more seasons, if I'm correct, at Kenilworth Road, and then we move over to Power Court. But the objective is ideally, which was set out by the current board at Luton, is to be in the Championship by the time that stadium opens. So I like to think if we were to stay down, well, we've been told they're going to act aggressively this summer. We were expecting for them to do that last summer, but they're saying that they're going to act aggressive again this summer, regardless what happens, regardless what league we're going to be in, because they really want to be in the Championship. So fingers crossed that does happen. But yeah, 2 more seasons, which is going to be, it's going to feel really sad because the Kenilworth Road, we can make it hostile. It hasn't been hostile in recent years, but we can turn it. It's like a switch at times. And when it does get going, it gets going, and it has character as an old school stadium. I feel like with a lot of modern day stadiums, atmosphere is kind of non-existent. And I've been to Bolton before. I can't remember what the atmosphere was like when I went, but this would be my second visit. But I feel like with a lot of traditional modern day stadiums, you just lack that atmosphere. Whereas the whole point of Power Court, which is what I think the new stadium will be called for us in 2 years' time, it's been designed so the atmosphere stays in, and you can create a bit of atmosphere around the place. It's going to be a 25k seated stadium. And yeah, in order for Luton to get to the next level, we need a new stadium. There's not much we can do at our current one.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, I'd be sad to say goodbye. It's a pain in the arse to work at, I've got to be honest with you, Kenilworth Road, but it's like you said, it's a proper old-fashioned atmosphere and old-fashioned stadium. I do appreciate that. There's not many of them left, but yes, that is absolutely fantastic, Lewis. I really do appreciate you to joining in. I implore everybody, have a look at his YouTube channel at Lewis Williams Football. Loads of stuff on Luton, but also loads of stuff on EFL in general, and it is well worth a go. I'm going to go back and watch another couple of videos. That's my afternoon sorted. So thanks very much, Lewis.
Thank you very much for having me on.